Tom, what else can you say about that game other than heartbreaking not to get the 3 points?
Football's a cruel game, and I feel for the girls more than anything. Of course, it hurts us as coaching staff, but we went into that game expecting a tough game and a draw. If we'd have said a draw at the start, we'd have been happy. But the performance was outstanding, and I think it sums up our season. We've gone up and down, and there's been games where we've been excellent. You know, here today against Peterborough, here against Doncaster, and then we just had those little moments in the season through injuries and other stuff where we sort of fell off. But we've shown today what we're really about, and we couldn't be more proud of them as a group of coaching staff. But I really feel for the players. You know, last 2 minutes of the game, and really hurts. Almost feels like a loss to them. But yeah, really proud.
We'll get onto the decision in a few moments' time, but how pleased were you with the way that we controlled that game throughout? Because it felt really like we didn't really come under that much threat at our own end.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember any real, other than the penalty save in the first half. Freya didn't have to make too many out of this world saves. I think it was 1 or 2, and that's good against a team like Stourbridge. They're scoring 4 or 5 goals most weeks and got to the plate final a couple of weeks ago. And they got prolific goal scorers, and I think, you know, we took control of the game, especially in the first half, and they had a few chances, don't get me wrong. In the last 15 minutes of the first half, we sort of stopped playing football and we allowed them to put us under more pressure. But no, it was a good performance, and I think we'd have deserved the 3 points if we'd have gone on to win, and I don't think Stourbridge would have disagreed either.
Just touching on that penalty decision at the end, I mean, I know it's obviously fizzed right at, I think it was Abby's face, and obviously, I mean, did you have any take on it really?
Well, from where we were, it looked like it hit her straight in the face, and the fact that she dropped down to the floor, she had to go and have treatment, she had blood in her mouth. It's because I don't normally say anything about officials because it's a hard job, and you know, it's an unthankful job that not many people want to do, and you mostly get stick, and we're pretty good at not doing that. But he's told us that it hit her in the face, but because the lines person has flagged for it, he had to give it, which I've never heard of before in football. The referee makes the ultimate decision. It was from point blank range. It couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 yards away, and this girl's absolutely rifled across into the box, and it's nearly knocked her unconscious. And yeah, that makes it even harder. If they'd have scored a worldie goal and played some great football, even though it would have hurt, you'd have almost accepted it. But for it to be conceded in that way, that hurts a little bit more. Can't change the past, it's happened now, and we move on.
Looking on, obviously, what was a brilliant performance, I suppose the goal that we scored, it was a brilliant move, wasn't it? And Tizzy fizzes in that cross, and Ava's there at the far post to take it home.
Yeah, it's something we've worked on in training, and sometimes we do all the build-up phases and we never quite have that last final action, and today all the right parts came together at the right time, and yeah, it was a great team goal that went out wide and then ended up with a number 10 making a late run into the box to finish. So yeah, really, really pleasing. But yeah, obviously I'm still can't take it out the back of my head. It's difficult at the minute. I've still got the penalty in the back of my head. Of
course, understandable. I suppose you say something that we work on in training, and you can see that in that first half, Tizzy, she did that on numerous occasions, didn't she? She's such a threat down that right hand side, and her delivery today into the area was brilliant.
She's a good player. She's got raw pace and she's got talent, and sometimes you don't always get the two together, and normally players like her that have both playing tiers higher above. So we're lucky to have her with us, and she causes defences no end of trouble. Our problem with Tizzy this year has been keeping her fit. You know, she struggles a little bit with injuries, and we haven't always been able to use her to her max. But today, we were able to get the best out of her for the first 40-50 minutes, and yeah, she was a threat all day. She was on the pitch.
Down the other end, just talk to us about that debut from Freya in goal. I mean, brilliant to save that penalty, wasn't it? And like you say, she didn't have loads to do because of the defensive work, but she did, when she was called on, make some brilliant saves as well, didn't she?
Considering she's 17 and this is the highest level she's ever played, I thought she was outstanding, and she only met the girls once, so she's been to one training session, and I don't know what else to say. I think she's going to go on to be a top keeper at a top level. She's 17 now. Can you imagine what she's going to be like in another 10 years? I could see her playing Championship or above, and we're grateful to have her now. She'll be with us till the end of the season, and then depending on what Cov want to do next year, we'll try and get her back for next year, and I think she'd be a massive asset for us as a club, no doubt.
I suppose the benefit of that as well is obviously bringing Abby Jackson back into the defence, and she was solid throughout as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, it's like a double signing, so not only do we get a keeper, we get to push Abby out, and yeah, I mean, it was hard at the time because we lost Harley, so Jackson had to go in goal, but then we also lost Ellie Bruton at the same time, so we lost 2 centre-backs pretty much in the space of 2 or 3 days. But now we're starting to get back to full strength, which is good because we've got some really tough games coming up, and we want to try and finish as strong as we possibly can.
And obviously Harley coming on as well, and I know obviously she's not an outfield player, but to obviously bring her on and get some minutes, that's great for her, isn't it? Not wanting to risk that injury, I imagine.
Yeah, so we're just don't want to risk putting her in goal, you know, diving around and falling on the injury. obviously she nearly ruptured her spleen, so it's a really dangerous situation that we don't want to take any unnecessary risks. We know she can be on the bench, and if anything happened to Freya, she could come on and play. But we just want to get her sharp, and if nothing else, it's great for her development with the feet. And she can play outfield. She played outfield for Alvechurch. She played outfield for us last year against Peterborough. And she scores loads of goals in training, so she's definitely a threat. It's just obviously the pace of the game, but today was more about getting her on the pitch, getting her minutes again, and getting her back in that team environment.
Just finally, Tom, obviously when we put in a performance like that, I suppose, is it frustrating for you that perhaps we haven't shown that consistency at times when you come up against a team like Stourbridge, top of the league, and by quite a distance as well? It just goes to show that with a little bit more consistency we might be able to be up there.
We calculated the other day, we've dropped 12 points over the course of the season from winning positions and in games where we shouldn't have done, and that would have put us in comfortable second. And that's football, can't do anything about that. That's something we've got to work on. And I summed it up at the start of the game to the girls and said, you're perfectly inconsistent. That's our problem. When we're great, we are fantastic, and we've shown that, but then we have drop-offs in performances, and our job as coaching staff and the players' job as well is to try and maintain a certain level of consistency. You don't have to be a 10 out of 10 every week, but we need to be 7s or 8s out of 10s every week, and if we do that, then no doubt we can be challenging for top end of the table next year. It's a shame it hasn't happened this year, but it's all a project we're building, and this year was about building on what we built last year, and hopefully we can solidify ourselves in the top half of the table for the first time in the club's history, and that's what we'll try and do in the next 3 games.